Rick and Morty is one of my favorite animated shows of recent memory, and to be honest, probably my favorite adult animated show of all time. It beats out Family Guy, The Simpsons, and Futurama in my book. It's an incredibly clever show, but despite what many toxic fans will have you believe, you don't have to be big brain to understand it. I mean, if this guy can understand it, I'm pretty sure you can too.
I'm Uncle Rick! My beloved dog! I'm Uncle Rick!
Its popularity and broad appeal is undeniable, and merchandise for the series is everywhere, but what I find kinda weird is that there aren't very many Rick and Morty video games. I've wanted to do a video on one for so long, but the only two that exist are a mobile RPG called Pocket Mortys that I do not want to play, and Virtual Rick-Ality, which I never had the equipment to play. I still only have the Quest 2, which can't play the game, but with my recently purchased gaming PC, I've finally been able to experience it through Oculus Link. Now, this computer doesn't run it the best, there's a couple sections of the game that are pretty damn laggy, but overall it ran smooth enough to allow me to play the game all the way through, and to be honest, it is so much better than I expected. This is the perfect Rick and Morty video game and my favorite VR game to date, and here's why. The primary reason this game works so well for me is because of my love for the series and this game's insane amount of respect for it. A licensed video game's commitment to the source material is one of the most important things to me when playing a licensed game. When you're playing something that just has a famous character plastered on the cover, it just doesn't feel the same. It feels like a cheap cash grab that you should stop playing. You start to question why exactly you're playing it as opposed to something made by competent people. Most licensed games aren't structurally on the same level as AAA games, but are made worth playing because they bring your favorite fictional worlds to life. No one plays these games because they're built better than AAA games. There's no debate there. You're never going to make a better platformer than Mario, but when there's enough commitment to the source material, a licensed game is worth playing. When a game fully immerses you in that world, it's a truly special experience that you really can't get from a AAA game. Playing Battle for Bikini Bottom for the first time was something magical. Being able to freely explore the world of SpongeBob, interacting with all of those familiar characters, and exploring playable versions of different locations was so incredible. And I haven't felt like that for a licensed game in a while. That was until I played this. It's a VR game though, so the world is even more immersive. You're quite literally thrown into that world, and there's so many specific references to episodes that I honestly couldn't stop smiling throughout the entire game.
Fake doors!
Hey, Baby Likes Baby Powder, a knockoff version of Roy called Troy that's actually playable and super fun, a Meeseeks box that functions and spawns a Useeks that copies your every move. There's too many to count, and it really is amazing. Even with smaller references aside, all of the rooms and locations look identical to their television counterpart. Look how well they nailed the shelf in Rick's garage. The attention to detail is phenomenal, and every place looks exactly as it should. Problem is, there's not a ton of rooms to explore. You can't even explore the entire house, just the garage and the bathroom, but both are so well done that I really don't care. And visually, the game is spectacular. For a 2D animated show, they did surprisingly well in transitioning the worlds and characters to 3D. They look exactly how you'd expect them to and still feel like they're straight from the show. Moving on to the gameplay, if you can even call it that, it's more of an experience. You're not playing, you're doing. But regardless, similarities have been drawn between it and Job Simulator, and I can totally see why. They're both chore-based games, having you do some pretty normal stuff in a virtual world, except Rick-Ality has a way more enticing world, as it's the world of one of my favorite shows. That's what made me want to play this game, not for its gameplay, but for the world it offered me a vessel to. The missions themselves are a total blast, and to be honest, way more fun than those in Job Simulator. In that game, you're doing really basic stuff, and it's fun, don't get me wrong, but this game has much more interesting stuff to do. It starts off with simply washing Rick's laundry, then escalates to fighting off insect alien dudes on a strange planet. Job Simulator's mission themes are all based on different occupations, while this game's are just random sci-fi stuff Rick would probably have Morty do for him, so the mission possibilities are seemingly endless. Even the simple things are a blast, like you're fixing the toilet, pouring wine into the back of it to get it to flush, but then Jerry starts knocking on the door and asking what's taking so long, then continues to reassure Morty what teenage boys do in the bathroom is okay.
You know, what young boys do in the bathroom is none of my business. I was a boy your age once, and oh, the stories I could tell. I had my share of tomfoolery in the bathroom.
It's uncomfortable, but it's Rick and Morty, so it should be. And some of the missions require some level of puzzle solving, and they're actually pretty damn well designed. There's a machine on Rick's desk that combines two different items, and that's used to craft all sorts of useful items to complete certain objectives, and it is so much fun to mess around with and eventually solve your problems. Even the less complex puzzles, like tossing a Useeks in front of you to pick up and throw the delivery to you, is so cool and creative. Nothing super tough, but there's some head-scratching stuff here and there that's very enjoyable. And everything controls very well, which comes to no surprise. The developers at Alchemy? Yeah, we'll go with Alchemy. The developers at Alchemy Labs know what they're doing when it comes to VR games like this, as they develop Job Simulator as well. This is such a key thing. It may be a licensed game, but it was developed by experienced studios that had already figured out how to properly program mechanics and physics in a game like this, so the quality of the game mechanically is right up there with other AAA VR games. The only thing that really sucks is that you can't get this from the Quest store. It's a PC VR game. You can play it on PS4 VR too, but no thanks. This is the first VR game I've played with my PC, and it ran pretty well, but some areas have really poor performance. Like in the microverse battery, for whatever reason the game refused to run above 20 FPS in there, and this part has you turning different levers and tedious switches to charge a battery. This was a mandatory thing in the game, but when I tried to grab and interact with certain things, it just wouldn't let me, so I moved what I could to increase the charge, but ended up sitting there for like 15 minutes doing the exact same thing, and it was brutal. Most sections ran pretty decently, but that battery part was in the first half hour of the game and really sucks. There's other parts of the game that performed poorly, but none of them were nearly as bad as that one. Now, if your computer is powerful enough, you shouldn't have a problem, but you shouldn't need a $1,000 gaming PC to run a Rick and Morty VR game. My PC cost me around $600. It has the GTX 1650 Super, Ryzen 5 3500 6-core processor, and 12GB of DDR4 RAM, which I thought would be plenty for this game, but I guess not. Yes, you could play this on PS4 VR. If you want to spend a couple $100 on a lousy VR setup just to play this game, be my guest. But my guess is not many people want to do that, and it's a major shame that a PC that could run this game nicely all the way through would cost almost $1,000. It is such an amazing game that you should absolutely play if you have the means to, but it's not a very accessible experience, and as a result, it won't be experienced by as many people as it deserves to be. Yeah, I love Virtual Rick-Ality, and if you love the show and have the means to play this game, you need to do so as soon as possible. It's such an amazing game, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. I tried not to spoil a whole lot of it. The magic of the game is experiencing it as blindly as possible, so quit looking up reviews and play the damn game. If you don't have the hardware to, I feel for you. I couldn't for the longest time and wanted to so bad, but it is really worth the wait, so hang in there. Oh, and if you disagree with me and think the game is bad or something, then you can Just gonna put grass in there and do the whole grass tastes bad thing, but it's really muddy outside and I don't want to go out, so
grass tastes bad.
Hey, thank you so much for watching the video. If this is your first video of mine, consider subscribing and checking out some of my other content. Be sure to drop a comment if you've got any game recommendations for me or things to add to the topic of Virtual Rick-Ality. Other than that, have a good day, go watch some Rick and Morty, and I'll see you soon.